Hey there! The Sega Genesis, am I right? It's the competition to my second least favorite Nintendo console. Yeah, I just said that. The 8-bit and 16-bit era are probably my least favorite eras of video games to collect, even though they take up almost an entire shelf. Trust me, it's not my fault. Even though these are my least favorite eras of video game, you got some pretty good games out of here. You got Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Kart, Garfield Caught in the Act, and probably one of the most influential games of the 16-bit era, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog. It's a game I wasn't too familiar with until fairly recently. You see, growing up, I was mostly a Mario person, if that wasn't already obvious enough. Growing up, I never really had any friends or family that actually played Sonic games until I met my best friend Connor. Connor, well, he actually owned Sonic games, and being influenced by him, along with my desire to play games other than what I had on my Wii, I bought Sonic Mania for the Nintendo Switch, and I actually quite enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much, I bought more games. Which brings us to today, with me talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Sega Genesis.
Sonic ended up being Sega's messiah. Sega's second console, the Master System, was a complete and total flop in the US and Japan, thanks to Nintendo. But for a while, Sega was actually able to clap back in those areas with the Sega Genesis. When the Genesis first came out, it was competing with the NES and Mario. Sega's new console was more than capable when it came to competing with the NES, but Sega's mascot at the time, Alex the Kid, was just not cutting it. Nintendo's latest Mario game, Super Mario Bros. 3, was a lot better than... So needing a more exciting mascot, a search began. There were plenty of concepts produced. One of them would actually end up becoming Dr. Robotnik, but out of all the proposed designs, one stuck out. A blue hedgehog. Obviously, as we all know, this blue hedgehog would end up becoming Sonic, and he was perfect for competing with Nintendo's Mario. He was fast, he had attitude, and he was basically a representation of the 90s as a whole.
Now, Sonic was basically an instant hit. In fact, he became so popular that Sega started to pack him in with consoles. My first ever experience with Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was at my cousin's house. He had a Model 2 Genesis with a multi-cart that just happened to have Sonic the Hedgehog on it. We would always see how far we could get before getting a game over. We could never get past the second zone, let alone the first boss. And now, roughly 3 to 4 years later, I have my own copy that I am talking to you about.
And now, with all of that out of the way, I present Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Sega Genesis.
Sega!
Man, I can hear the sounds of nut sex from a mile away. If I was a kid in 1991, this would have blown me away. Nowadays, this looks just like any other 16-bit title screen, but you have to remember, when Sonic first came out, it was still competing with the NES, and the SNES wouldn't come out for another 2 months. So this looked really good, and in my opinion, a lot better than the Sega Genesis games that came before it. Now, Sonic is a pretty basic game. Push right to go right, push left to go left, push down to duck, and press A, B, or C to jump. There are boxes that lie around everywhere that have power-ups in them. The yellow ring gives you 10 rings, the blue circle gives you a bubble that acts as like an extra hit point, Sparkles is basically your invincibility from most forms of damage, and the Sonic head is your 1-up. Sonic's hit system is a bit different from other platformers. As long as you have at least one ring, you can survive any hit. Attacking enemies can also only be done when in ball form. You can get in ball form by either going super fast in small tunnels, or just jump.
Now, Sonic the Hedgehog isn't a very long game. Like I said, it was still competing with the NES when it came out, which NES games in themselves were not very long. Now, is this any reason to think of Sonic the Hedgehog as a bad game? No. But I may retract that statement later, we'll see.
Sonic 1 is broken up into 6 zones, each with 3 acts each, except for the final zone, which has 4 acts, one being entirely dedicated to the final boss. Also, I know that final act is considered its own zone, but I just think it makes more sense to just group it in with the 6th zone. Zone 1, Green Hill Zone, is an amazing way to start a game. You have lots of bright colors, vibrant music, and a well-balanced amount of speed areas and platforming areas. All of this coming together to make one of the greatest first areas in gaming history. And then you get to Zone 2, Marble Zone, and everything goes to crap.
No!
Yeah, Green Hill is basically where this game peaks. Don't get me wrong, there are good stages after Green Hill, but none of them can top it. But anyways, back to Marble Zone. For almost everything great Green Hill Zone did, Marble Zone tried to do, but failed so hard that if these zones were candidates in the 1936 election, Green Hill would be Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Marble Zone would be Alf Landon. The colors in Marble Zone are drab and boring, and being honest, this is pretty consistent for the rest of the zones. The level design in Marble Zone is terrible as well. Let me ask you this, when you think of Sonic, what do you think of? Fast? That's right. Well, what if I told you that this is the slowest level in the game? This level involves so much waiting. You have to wait for this crushing thing to go up. You have to wait for this block to get across the lava. And there isn't even a single straightaway or loop-de-loop where you can just book it. It also doesn't help that this zone is just full of the most BS trap placement I have ever seen in a video game. The only redeeming feature of Marble Zone is the music, but every zone has pretty good music. Spring Yard is a lot more traditional. Once again, the colors are kind of drab, they're a bit more vibrant. This zone is leagues better than Marble, but it still has some garbage trap placements, mainly this armadillo enemy that just comes out of nowhere. Zone 4, Labyrinth Zone, is right back to the nightmare of Marble. Labyrinth Zone is definitely faster than Marble, but this freaking water! I don't know if you know this, but Sonic can't swim. And to make things that much harder, you can only be in the water for a certain amount of time before you... In order to survive, periodically you have to either surface, which won't happen much, or you have to find these air pockets which will shoot out big bubbles. It also doesn't seem like a labyrinth, not once did I get lost. The only part that felt like a labyrinth is this waterfall at the beginning of Act 3. Basically, you fall until you pick the right path, but the number of paths is so small. Zone 5, Starlight Zone, is more or less the same stuff we saw back in Spring Yard. It's more traditional, there's a lot better balance of platforming and speed. One thing I will say is, at some point, this zone just feels more like a Donkey Kong stage rather than a Sonic zone. Scrap Brain Zone is bad. This zone feels like it's trying to be all the zones at once, but it just doesn't work. It's bad. There isn't really anything notable in Acts 1 and 2. Act 3 is probably the most interesting act in this zone. Act 3 is a spoof on Labyrinth Zone, and I think it's supposed to be more of a labyrinth than Labyrinth Zone, but I wouldn't know because on my run I took this shortcut at the beginning of the level. But if the rest of the level is anything like the probably small portion I played, then I'm glad I took the shortcut. And then there's the final boss.
Yeah, that's the end of that thought.
But no, seriously, when I think of a final boss, I think of something grand, something meant to challenge you, but nope, it's just the same crap you did in every other zone. The only thing notable about this fight is that it didn't take place right after the third act. Instead, it's just its own thing. And all of that was just the main stages. Don't even get me started on the bonus levels.
Bonus stages?
If you can survive food poisoning, you can survive the bonus stages in Sonic the Hedgehog. If you make it to the end of Acts 1 or 2 in any zone with 50 rings or more, you get a chance for a bonus stage. In these bonus stages, you get a chance to get one of 6 Chaos Emeralds. Getting all 6 gets you the true ending, but it's not that different from the regular ending. You just get some flowers, and if you don't get them, then you just get the smug Eggman at the end. I can usually get past the first bonus stage, but anything after that.
Yeah, that's the end of that thought.
The Chaos Emeralds in this game are so useless. They serve much better purposes in other Sonic games, but here you just get a pat on the back and a bouquet of flowers.
And that was Sonic the Hedgehog. Is it a good game? No. It's not a good game, but it's not a terrible game. It's just kind of a eh.
The music, the visuals, the controls, they're all really solid, and clearly this game was good enough in 1991 because it got plenty of games after it.
This game isn't terrible, but it isn't great either. It hasn't aged the best. But is it truly the worst Sega Genesis Sonic game? Yeah, they let Marble Zone into the game. I mean, who does that?